Well, my secret little goal is right now the State Board of Ed is 6 females and 2 males, and I know for decades it was all male, all white male. And I would love to see it be all female someday soon. One of them being me.
So, I taught at Wayne State for 40 years. My name is Fran Shore. And I want to talk just very quickly about the 2 programs I taught in. I came here in 1974 to teach in a special program for working adults. This was a program that went out to union halls, that went out around the state. We had 50% of our students were African Americans. We graduated African Americans at a greater rate than the main campus had done. And that was with some incredible hurdles that people had to go through. In 2007, the Wayne State University Board of Governors terminated our program, a program that was set up for working class people. They terminated the program, and 4 of the 6 Democrats voted against us. That should be indication of how Democrats are often untrustworthy when it comes to supporting the interests of working people. Secondly, after that program was terminated, I then went into the history department, and my students, the traditional undergraduate students, who I asked anonymously to tell me how much debt they would be accumulating at the end of their time at Wayne State, it averaged $30,000 to $40,000. I couldn't stand in front of them any longer, even though I could have gone on to teach much longer at that university. The debt issue is a major issue. It's one that Bernie Sanders raised. It's one that Jill Stein and the Green Party has raised. I think we need a debt moratorium on because financial holds on students at universities are killing the graduation rate. Secondly, at Wayne State in particular, the administrative bloat has gone up enormously. Administrative staffs at most universities become more and more like corporate institutions. So they have a vice president for locking doors, a vice president for opening doors. I mean, a slight exaggeration, right? The thing is that I think we could cut easily the $75 million that university gets, easily could cut that almost in half, setting up free tuition for the neediest students at Wayne State. So they wouldn't be accumulating that kind of debt. There's lots of other things. I don't want to take up too much time. I've got a flyer, didn't make enough flyers. This is a low budget, no budget campaign because I'll be standing. So I'm going to use as many of the networks as you all have to guarantee that we can make Wayne State what used to be accessible to working people, to protect the kinds of programs, Latino studies, Africana studies, that are essential for our young students from those communities, and make it also a green campus. For those of you who know Aramark, which is a disgusting food service operation, it would be nice to get them off campus and actually use the urban farms of the city of Detroit as a basis, for having food services. So there's lots of possibilities. I'm open to any kind of feedback you want to give me. Any questions that you have.
I thought Aramark only fed the prisoners.
Yeah, that's at people who are institutionalized, they feed. So that includes people at schools. Yes.
I'm Lloyd Clark from Bridgeport, and I'd like to know about the college's endowment fund.
Yes.
How much they have, and what do they do with that?
Yeah, all right, here's the problem. Wayne State, of all of the state universities, relies the most on state expenditures, unlike U of M or MSU, which means that the problem becomes as more and more of the expenditure has been decreased, tuition rates have been going up. In fact, tuition rates were just raised again 4.5%. Wayne State doesn't have a big endowment. It's not like the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan has an enormous endowment that,
$10 billion.
Yeah, they don't, they're sort of state related. We're a state school at Wayne State University, and we rely so much on that. But to raise the tuition rates as they've been raising them over the last couple of years is really, as far as I'm concerned, criminal. And part of the reason for that is Wayne State just got a so-called $40 million, you might have read this, from the Illiches to open up the Illich School of Business. They got, apparently Illich got a little bit of a kickback and the money wasn't all necessary to, for the plans. So now they've added that additional funds to the general fund, which means that they're taking money from the general fund to build the Illich School of Business and raising tuition rates. I mean, those sorts of things go on when an institution is a corporate institution, when you don't have the kind of control that you should have, democratic control. And the other part, one of the other things I'm running on, for those of you who know participatory budgeting, that started in Porto Alegre and is actually one of the most democratic ways to decide how expenditures will be appropriated. I want to see that instituted at Wayne State, which means faculty, staff, and students actually have control over how the budget is appropriated. It's now being done at Queens College, which is the first college in the university to open that as a possibility. So there are all sorts of things, basically, obviously, it's kind of a wish list. We have to be serious. We're not going to win, we're not going to defeat the machines that operate. But as Margaret said, we can raise issues, the kind of issues that the Green Party has been raising for years, the kind of issues that Bernie Sanders has been raising all this last year. And I think that's tremendously important if we're going to move this country forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark Gutschall. I'm a revolutionary socialist and a Green Party candidate for Wayne State University Board of Governors. I've run a bunch of times. When I first ran, I didn't have a traumatic brain injury. I hadn't been hit by an 18-wheel truck. That's my situation now. But I keep on running because I like the opportunity to talk to people and talk to them about important things. So I've been going all around here trying to urge everybody to run for office and take the opportunity to put things they think are important down on a piece of paper, because I think it's wonderful to talk about serious things. So I'm just standing. Please vote for me, urge your neighbors to vote for me, and I think I'm going to try to go down to Wayne State and pass the amount. I worked at Wayne State as a clerk, as a reference assistant. I used to live right by Wayne State, so me and Wayne State are embedded in each other. So, if anybody wants one of these, I'd be happy to give them one. It's just an idea of some of the things that you can talk about. And I just want to tell all the new people here, the conversation earlier got a little hot, but I think that that's totally normal.
Thank you very much, Margaret. All right. Says hi. My name is Dan Finn. I am a 2015 graduate of Wayne State University, and I currently reside. Yeah, go Warriors or Tartars, depending how old you are. I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting, Theater Performance, and I could not find it in my good conscience to go to New York or Hollywood. I see so much atrocity for environmental neglect and deregulations on companies and industries that continue to desecrate our habitat, which doesn't really make any sense. If the Kool-Aid man broke into my house, I would tell him to pay for it. I don't care about the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to drink your Kool-Aid. I want you to put those bricks back in order. So I voted for Jill Stein in 2012. I was affiliated with the Green Party back then, but I am now a new member of the Michigan Greens, especially after Bernie's endorsement and withdrawal from the race. I was a huge Bernie bro, but now I am for Sister Jill Stein all the way. And if any place that I represent, it is Detroit, and if there's anything that I get across to people internationally when I travel abroad and nationally, is the inefficiency that Detroit does in regards to energy output. The fact that we have allowed ourselves to fall victim to the consumer capitalist trap, to all have to be mandated to have an automobile, by the fact that there is no mass transit besides buses, I recognize that, but to spend millions of dollars on a couple-mile tram instead of expanding our bus system is an atrocity, and it is a waste of finances. But running in the Michigan House, I would not be as focusing much in my city, but I would be focusing for our state. There are several things that are already on my mind. I could go through a list of policies, but I'm very focused on regulating and holding accountable for the pipelines and oil and coal and fracking industries throughout our state and bringing that to an end. The fact that there's the pipeline right next to the Mackinac Strait that has not been audited in years. We need to audit that pipeline. We need to shut down that pipeline. For the fact that our Great Lakes are pride and joy as Michiganders to be one of the largest freshwater reserves in the planet. We cannot allow for a pipeline that is deregulated and falling apart to go on any longer. I'm also for expanding on the mass transit to begin to reintroduce rail systems and to renovate our Amtrak. We need to be able to connect our major cities through public mass transit, through rails. We cannot go any longer to be the Motor City because the Motor City has left us.
Absolutely.
Just because Ford and General Motors hold offices here does not mean we're beholden to them. We need to get the money out of politics to not allow for the automotive industry to lobby against our interests. I know we're all driving cars, but I would love not to be driving a car in this state. I would love that so much. I also just heard last week, Snyder just signed a provision mandating that all Tesla automobiles must now be sold through a dealership in the state of Michigan. That is another attempt by the oil auto industry to put a middleman in between the efficiency that we are trying to do with the Green Revolution. It is another barrier for the Green New Deal, and Snyder has just signed it in. Step down Snyder, resign Snyder, arrest Snyder. These are my statements, these are my comments. This is what I fight for. I fight for our people. I fight for our planet, and I fight for this great state that is so beautiful, yet so many people evict of the brain drain and talent drain because of our crumbling economy, because of our one basket industry that we have relied on in the golden age, but they didn't rely on us.
For Pontiac, Michigan, my top three will be schools, a lot of vacant homes and businesses, and policing. Now, policing, as everyone knows, reading in the newspaper, because that's all they do is print negative. For your policing, we have our nice little sheriffs. And sheriffs pull people over at whim, which is not right. You supposed to work for us, not we work for you. Then also with your decapitating homes and businesses, that should be torn down. If we work with our nice person, Snyder Biter as I call him, I know a lot of people have voted for him, but I'm sorry, and get the money out, we should have those taken down and built into some greenhouses, as well as built into some homes that people can live in. Not rich people, but people like us. I don't care what no one says. We need homes. Then also, we have to take and listen to people. And I don't mean just my district, which is 29, 14, 24, everybody's district. We all need to listen to each other. And we also need to go out door to door and see what other people need. Not just what individuals want, which is a pay raise. Anyone have any questions? Thank you and have a nice day.
I'm running for state representative in the 52nd district. If you know Washtenaw County, it's a big square. We're on the western half of that square, which includes Dexter, Chelsea, and Manchester. I own a business in Livonia. It's called EB Graphics, a multimedia business. And I also volunteer in the Ann Arbor Schools as a substitute teacher these days. I'm a graduate of Oakland Community College. I have an associate's degree in applied science. And I recently graduated from Down University with a broadcasting degree, a bachelor's degree in broadcasting and cinema arts. My major issues this election are environmental. I live in an area, the district is at least 70 to 80% rural, with small village town-like situation. But it's the Huron River, it's really polluted, and the wildlife is seriously degraded, and the people are kind of numb and not in touch with that, particularly the government people. It's been labeled by the EPA as an impaired river. There are a number of issues. We have a dioxin plume in the city of Scioto. They've tried to drill oil right in the watershed of the river. And we have a huge, this is the number one issue, is the ET Rover pipeline. It cuts right through the middle of this district, all the way from the Livingston County line, all the way through the entire length of the height, and I would say it would be the height of the county, all the way down. It goes all the way to Ohio water. So.
Eric, is that an Enbridge pipeline?
No, it's not. It's ET Rover. It's not. It's partially owned by DTE Energy. It's Canadian, though. It's not Enbridge.
Its home office is in Texas.
Yes, Texas. But it's Canadian fracking gas that's going through it. But that's not to say that if they wanted to put something else through it, it's pretty easy to convert those things. The pumps are pumps and pipes are pipes. The other issues, I said wildlife degradation. It's kind of odd, but if you're out in the country, you don't think of lawn mowing as a problem, but there are so many 5-acre residential properties going in, and we need to have some kind of restriction on the lawn mowing. They're having these things, beautiful areas turned into golf courses, and so I'm going to sort of spearhead that campaign. It's so other areas of the country have done this, and so it's sort of something I think about very much when I see the little animals squished, and I see that our reptiles and amphibians are going extinct, and the water. Another thing is the Lake Erie. The runoff from the fertilizers from these beautiful golf course homes, that phosphorus and stuff that they buy down at the Home Depot, it ends up in the lawns, it ends up in the waterways, it ends up in Lake Erie, turning it green, and poisoning the water for cities like Toledo. And who knows, one of these years, they may have to find a different source of water for other cities in Ohio. Not that I care about Ohio that much, but I care about people. So,
good answer.
Also, another issue, my other third big issue would be education cuts. I'm in the Ann Arbor schools. I've seen the cuts there. I see the horror going on in Detroit. That is just so unnecessary. And there's somebody, obviously the Democrats can't stand up to the Republicans. I think the Green Party, they need protests. We need to bring the protests back that we had in Brooklyn, and it means a general protest to improve our environment. Thank you very much.
That I was aiming at 63rd State House. Currently a Republican-held seat by David Maturin. He's got one, if I remember correctly, he's got an opponent in the primary and one Democrat on the other side. He may not have a primary, but anyway. It's one race where there's no other minor party candidate running as far as we know yet, at least. Haven't heard from the Natural Law Party or the New Working Class Party. As I said before, I do tend to open myself to the will of the convention if they want me to run for something else instead. But I've been pointing at State House because with all the problems we've got back and forth, it seemed that one major focus of them was in the state legislature. And how much they've been working against government of, by, and particularly for. Actually, well, for the people, everybody will say they are for the people. What we really need is more government by the people. That's what they're taking away the right to recall them. They're taking away the right to say, we don't like that law, we're going to have a referendum on it. We don't like that, we would like to pass our own law, and have an initiative on it. And as John McDermott mentioned earlier, this goes along with the distressing we're number 1 in reverse of Michigan being number 50 in the Center for Public Integrity study of how much integrity and openness our state government has. This we need to change. I think pointing out that the Green Party is in favor of not only ecological wisdom, but grassroots democracy and social justice. Not good. It's something that everybody should know, and that even when I am a little bit busy chasing around after somebody else, and also moving into a new house, and selling our old one, although that may go quickly soon. So I can't necessarily run full out from day one. I still want to do all that I can to run, whether it's in that race or something else. Other than that, I think you have a little bit from me here. Those of you who have been around a little longer have seen me around for some other things. I'm not usually quite as hectic as this. I do settle down and think about things every once in a while. And I think that I could do a good job in this office, and I would be happy to have your support for it. But if you want to ask me about some other, of course, I do think that government by the people and government open enough to be of and for the people is a major issue. I do also note that my home district in Calhoun and Kalamazoo counties is, if you will, the home of the Enbridge spill. So you can guess what one of my other issues might be.
Fair enough.
Also trying to save as much time as possible for everybody else here. So, any other questions? Any other suggestions? Any questions? Any answers? Any rags? Any bones? Any bottles today?
Let's all stand up and stretch or something. God. Is anybody else tired?
No.
Do I need a microphone?
No.
No. Here's my stump speech. Hey, the things I'm hammering on. My name's Cliff Yankovich. Here, have this. I'm feeling like yelling. My name's Cliff Yankovich. I'm running in the 86th district, which is the belly button of the Republican Party in this state. Betsy DeVos lives in my district, all right? One of the things I'm hammering on the people in Lowell, my wife and I have owned a business there for 13 years. And it's really cool because I'm getting Republicans coming into my store every day and saying, I'm a Republican, but I'm going to vote for you. So that makes me excited. One of the things I'm hammering on is Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution. All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal benefit, security, and protection. All right? And I tell people that's in perfect harmony with the 4 pillars of the Green Party. It's right on my card, okay? I'm making one campaign promise. I will put the interests of the taxpayers of Michigan as a whole, and the 86th district in particular, ahead of my own interests and the interests of corporations and companies. Our current representative is Lisa Posthumous Lyons, the one who was responsible for trying to suppress the black vote, the one who stood up and said, I'm all about crushing the unions, but can we leave the prison guard union alone? You know why she said that? Where's her husband work? That's why I said I'll put interests of the state ahead of my own, because I had a bad example. Three major issues on my agenda. Pipeline 5 is the thing that blew my mind. I saw the National Wildlife Foundation video 3 years ago. I couldn't sleep. I had no clue we were pumping almost 1 million gallons an hour of Canadian crap under my two favorite lakes. Never mind how many million people drink out of that. It just scares me, and there's nothing being done. I'm also getting a lot of resonating with talking about roads, and I'll get to why in a second. In my district, talking about the roads and schools. As you know, the DeVos family is the primary backer behind charter schools, and I have to confess, I'm a former Republican who, when that was presented by years ago, I actually thought maybe there was some merit in the idea, so I have to apologize for that. But the converted can be the most excited, you know what I'm saying?
You got over it.
I like to boil those three issues down to my favorite subject, which is PACs. If you saw my little piece of literature, a friend of mine who's an artist created a Pac-Man eating the state of Michigan. Because if you look at Pipeline 5, the reason nothing's getting done, oil money. You look at the roads, it's because all the Republicans promised Grover Norquist they'd never raise taxes for any reason. And then schools, we all know the pack behind that. So, what? DeVos?
What pack behind the school?
I don't know what her pack's called. They give, I checked the other day, they give $560,000 just to the Republican House races. So that's why I'm kind of feeling like David and Goliath, because she lives in Ada. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Anybody have a question?
Are you related to Al?
No, he never calls.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm not really planning this at all. It's how my life is going lately. So I am running for the 83rd district. It is in the Thumb. St. Louis County. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or been up there. The thought kind of came to my head about a year ago. I've been dealing with the front of the court and the small corrupt government of St. Louis County. And that's when I really got into who's my state representative, what is he doing, and I'm not happy at all with it. So I really like the chance to change that and help the poor people.
Name some issues that you'd like to grab onto.
Cannabis. I'm for cannabis completely. I was on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and for ADHD medication, and I was, upper or downer, and something to stabilize me, and I was like, this is ridiculous. So I'm completely for cannabis. It has absolutely changed my life in the last year, and schooling is just, St. Louis County, in most of Michigan, we've taken away the arts. And I don't know if you guys know, but the arts is like really the only class that I excelled in. It was the only, I could be myself in art. And for kids not to have art, especially in elementary school, it's just, what do they do? So bring the arts back and
She's running for State House of Representative for the 83rd against some guy who's not doing anything for anybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Hayden. I'm running for the 11th district, which is Garden City, Inkster. It's Metro Detroit, right outside. don't know if anybody's familiar. It's parts of Westland, parts of Dearborn Heights. Our current state rep, she passed away recently. Her last name's Plowicki. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
So you're running in the district where she died, right?
Yeah, they did just replace her with a 20-year-old from Inkster. No, her daughter was interested. I was really surprised. I thought that's who was going to be the replacement, but it was a 20-year-old a boy from male from Inkster. The main reason why I'm interested in running for state rep, I don't know if you guys were following the bill that passed allowing the roadside drug testing in Michigan. Yes. Pilot study. One thing that hasn't gotten mentioned at all is the fact that these kits that they're using to do the drug tests, aside from them having like a lot of errors and false positive rates, they're essentially collecting your DNA. And once your DNA is in the system, it's there forever. And there's been a lot of progress in a field called forensic DNA phenotyping. And where they're at right now, basically from a swab of your saliva, they can have like a drawing of your face with 80% accuracy. Like 80% right now pretty much looks like you, and then 20% failure. But they're getting better and better at it. Not only can it determine like physical features, it can also determine like propensities. This person is likely to be an alcoholic, aggressive, homosexual. You might get pulled over this week and have that test taken, and your future children may not get health insurance because this DNA revealed that they're more likely to have Parkinson's disease. So like I said, once it's out there, it's there forever, and it's dangerous, and nobody's talking about it. And that's the main reason why I'm interested in running.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Joe Stevens. I'm running for the Michigan 53rd House District, which is the southern two-thirds of the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Michigan, bachelor's in environmental economics, and I've lived in the state all my life, lived in Ann Arbor for 8 years, and for the last 9 months I've been married to my husband, Dylan Calwards, sitting in the back, who you graciously nominated for the U.S. 12th House District. Thank you so much.
So you can campaign together.
Yes, we can. And I wanted to assure Luann, since it's so important to her, that I consider the emergency manager law to be a complete and utter failure for our state. And if there's one silver lining from all the bad things that has happened, is that it's exposed it to the rest of the country, because as I learned from my husband, Rick Snyder was planning a 50-state tour to go and sell this law to the rest of the country. So one silver lining at least. One of the issues that's most important to me, or that I think would do the most change if enacted, would be election reform. I think, as we all know here, it's very difficult for third-party candidates to get on the ballot. For independent candidates, there's just so many more restrictions if you aren't even, I mean, you don't even really have to do anything if you're a member of the two major parties, really. You just automatically get access. And I also think that you would greatly benefit from going further with the implementation of multi-member districts, so that we can have multiple people representing multiple views, instead of it being boiled down to a single person in each district. I'm very glad that I learned today that the Green Party uses instant runoff voting, which I think is very good. We need to implement that further so that we reduce the spoiler effect, which so negatively affects third-party candidates. So many people, and it's completely understandable, that they don't want to risk throwing the election to someone that they really don't like, and so therefore can't vote for the person they like the most. A second issue that I think is very important to me is drug legalization. Total legalization and decriminalization of all drugs, I think, is really the only solution, or the only practical solution, really. I mean, it would solve so many myriad problems, so many people that we could then hopefully release from our criminal justice system who are serving there for non-violent offenses, mostly, I think, because of situations of poverty. And the tax revenue alone, I mean, Colorado is just giving money away practically because they have so much. They don't know what to do with it. And the third issue that I'm most concerned about is what I refer to as judicial reform. Recently, I had the experience of, and with my husband, a small claims suit, and the process we went through in Washtenaw County involved a mediation. It was the county gets involved with a local nonprofit that offers mediation services, and you saw it that way, essentially outside of the court system, and you can come to an agreement through that process. And I think that saves probably a considerable amount of money and time and allows people to actually come to an agreement. And I think we should implement that system further in our courts. There's already some other pilot programs they call tribal peace courts, I believe is the term, where you try and actually work with either the offender or the parties to come to some kind of mutual agreement, as opposed to, you know, let's hash it out with lawyers. And those are three issues that are most important to me. Thank you for listening.
Questions?
Yes. How do you feel about the $15 minimum wage and police brutality?
And, or is that two separate issues? Two separate issues? Preferably, I would actually push for what's called basic income. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, where essentially we would pay all people in the state, probably all adults, not children, some kind of, just like a monthly check essentially for some amount of expenses, maybe half your monthly expenses. And then it'd be guaranteed income principle. And I think then the minimum wage issue would be less of an issue then, because studying economics, I'm very sensitive to making sure we make use of market forces, because it's a very useful tool to make use of. We just need to apply our regulation in such a way to minimize the disadvantages, maximize the advantages. And police brutality, I don't really have a good answer. I think if we do drug reform, then that, I mean, I don't know statistics, but I'm assuming most crimes then would disappear. We could convert people selling drugs on the street in gangs to selling them in a shop to customers. And if we had, I think, a more mediation and rehabilitation-based judicial system, then we wouldn't have, hopefully, as much problem with recidivism or other issues of that sort. I would suggest, I like the idea of the cameras that police officers are required to wear in some areas. I think that should be required as well in the state. Any other questions? Yes, Margaret?
It's my understanding that the $15 an hour minimum wage is a part of the Green Party's platform. So you have to be prepared to defend the fight for the $15 an hour minimum wage.
I'm prepared to fight for that, but I'm also going to offer my alternative of the basic income as a better compromise, because I think more people could be brought on to agree with something like that than continuing to fight for a
The problem
wage.
is the Green Party has principles that you have to be prepared to stand for and fight for.
It's in the national platform. Alternative wages, it's in the national platform.
Okay. As I understand, or if the Green Party allows me, that there is a diversity of view, I will certainly fight for the $15 minimum wage. I think wages, at least income, should be increased. But my preferred idea would be basic income. If that is dead in the water, then increasing the minimum wage is the only other option I see.
What's wrong with that?
So that was my bad. So it's very good to see everybody that is joined. I did want to just take a minute to say I'm the township clerk. And what that means is normally the township clerk is in charge of all of the paperwork of the township. And so I take the minutes and I run the regular office, right? And how does that affect, how does being a Green Party person come into play? Well, we don't make decisions at some of the scale that you do. However, what I do is I order all the supplies for the township. And yes, everything is recycled. And yes, everything gets recycled. And we recycle inkjet cartridges and electronic materials. And I make sure that the fire department and the EMS does the same. And I take care of their materials. I also order the cleaning supplies. And yes, they're all green, you know, so we take care of that. I train the election inspectors. And I make sure that all the election inspectors treat everybody with respect that come into our township hall. That may not have been the case when I first started and had to work with people to talk with them and teach them. And you know, you get a bunch of little old ladies and they start talking about whoever comes in the hall, sometimes when they're still in the hall. So it was something to work on, and we've developed a very good group of election inspectors, and our office is now about 50-50 Democrat and Republican, which is what you try to achieve, and that in the past it was pretty much all Republican. I am from a very rural agricultural community in southwest Michigan, which is very Republican. But we're changing that.
Hello, I'm Celeste Bondi, and I'm running for Emmett County Commissioner, District 4. And the main issues up there, Pipeline 5, you've heard about that already probably. Everybody in our community, surprisingly, does not want it. There's issues that people are talking about. It's mainly a Republican community. The board is all white males. It's been that way. It's a good old boys club. It's been that way for a very long time. So a lot of people don't like that. So we're hearing, when people are hearing I'm running, I'm finding people are secretly trying to find me and talk to me because they want to find out how to help. So that's kind of exciting. Even one of the current commissioners is interested in ousting the guy I'm up against. So pretty exciting. One of the issues I'm very interested in is our garbage. We have you contract with a company, and they pick up your garbage, which works fine if you have money. But what we're finding is some people don't have money, and so then they just go out in the woods and they dump it. Well, then the DNR will pick it up, right? No. Well, then Sierra Club? No. So it's nobody's. And certainly becomes then possibly a water quality issue. So in the north, lots of water. We're right on Lake Michigan. There's Lake Huron. Water quality issues are something that everybody locally cares about. So that's one of the things I'm focusing on, and everybody seems to be very interested in. The one thing I wanted to share with anybody else who's running, I'm doing something very different. I don't know if it's very different, but since we don't take campaign fund donations from corporations and things like that, I'm trying to save money. So, has anyone ever been to like an Arbonne party or one of those home parties? Most women, we've been to these things. We go because our friend asked us to. We buy something we didn't want. We have a good time with our friends though. So I'm basing it on that without spending money. So I'm having home parties where I have a presentation made on Prezi. Some younger folks will know what Prezi is. It's a nice little demonstration, so it's reproducible. So I bring this demonstration into the home. People can ask questions, has nice pictures of me. They like that. I don't know if they like that, but it's reproducible anyways, and shares the message the same each time. And at the end, just like at one of these home parties, you get a card, and you're asked to have your own party and invite your friends and neighbors. So that's how I'm getting the word out without spending any money. And I'm asking hosts to serve wine and cheese. So if anybody would like to see that and use it in their own campaign, I'm more than willing to share. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I'm a lawyer, you know, a brief 50
Oh, you
pages.
are?
Yeah.
Do I hear a blocking concern?
Guy's a lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm a lawyer.
We need lawyers.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Not all lawyers are bad people. Matter of fact, I'm a certified mediator in both domestic and in civil mediation. Just, I know that's been brought up here. I know that Joe earlier had brought up that we have a tribal court in Washtenaw County, where it's the only one of its kind. It's run by Judge Connors out in the courthouse over there. Not as fond of the Dispute Resolution Center for various reasons I won't discuss here, but the intent of the Dispute Resolution Center is extremely good. And there are numerous ones throughout the state. There's Oakland County, there's Wayne County Mediation Center where I got my certification for domestic. There's a bunch of them out there. Myself, but since I run my own practice and I've taken on a new partner, I've obviously decided to step in the arena at a much smaller level, which is the Ypsi Township Park Commissioner. The lovely thing about Washtenaw County in general is we're a very democratic society. I mean, very much pro-democrat, not a lot of Republicans, and it was shocking to me to see 3 libertarians on our ballot. Needless to say, I had to step in. The township itself is my home, and it has been my home for 14 years. We are in the process of dealing with a lot of issues. One, obviously, we have is that our township and the city are still at odds with one another for a very small area. The city is not a part of the township, and the township hires, for example, the county Sheriff's Department in order to represent us, as opposed to the city, which is represented by the city police. So we have a lot of local problems in terms of the people getting together. The parks in Ypsilanti Township are fairly well maintained, but they certainly could be much more environmentally friendly. We have taken efforts in the township itself to make sure that we could get more of the bees coming back. Certainly more needs to be done. Kids, of course, the problem is a lot of the township areas are remote from where the parks are, and so a lot of the parks are not used, or what they are used for, they're used for soccer fields, and a lot of the kids, of course, come and play on the soccer fields, and unfortunately the ground is, how shall we put it, like cement. It's really not fit for running on. There needs to be a lot of aeration. It needs to be done in an environmentally friendly way. These are the sorts of things that our township looks at. These are the problems in the county, or at least Ypsi City and Ypsi Township, and I'm hoping that I could rectify some of it, at least on a smaller level, and perhaps later on move up the chain and do something on a more statewide level.
And Shauna?
Oh, Shauna, I have to say, I contacted the Green Party, what was it, 3 weeks ago. Both Shauna and myself are both what we could, I guess, call Bernie Democrats. We were very, very disappointed with the Democratic Party. And how shall we say, a skewed election.
Yes.
There's a lawyer for you. I honestly was only briefly introduced to her on a Friday phone call. I really don't know much about her, other than I believe that she has the same issues in terms of what happened with the national election, and those of us who do not wish to be a part of that, because those of them, like myself, tend to be somewhat idealistic, which I don't think is a bad thing. When you continue to vote for the lesser evil, you reap what you sow. And unfortunately, I've been seeing this for most of my lifetime, where we say, oh, we got to vote for so-and-so, so we avoid so-and-so. And unfortunately, that logic only works to keep those that we want out of office in office.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Siegel, and I am running for the Oakland Community College Board of Trustees. This is a nonpartisan race, and so I would be seeking the Green Party's endorsement rather than an official nomination. Briefly, I've got two main issues. First off, I'm currently a teacher at Oakland Community College. I teach political science, in particular American government. And so my campaign slogan is, put a teacher in charge of the school. I raise this point because on the 7-member board that is in charge of overseeing a fairly sizable institution of higher education, and one of the critical entry points for people coming into higher education in general, but also increasingly for career, vocational, and technical training as well. On a 7-member board, there's not a single educator in charge of setting policy for an educational institution. There is one member who is a retired administrator from Birmingham City Public Schools, so she has some background in education, but she's not a current educator, and she's not someone who's experienced in higher education administration. And so I think it's important to have someone who does have experience in higher education helping to set policy for higher education administration. And I have two main issues that I want to pursue as a member of the OCC Board of Trustees. The first is to, as much as I can, to try to make Oakland Community College free. In particular, at the very basic level to all Oakland County residents, and then beyond that to anyone. I think in general we should make public education free to anyone who wants to get some kind of higher education. I think that's a commitment that we all need to make. I think that's a commitment we can all agree on. And that's the first thing that I want to do at Oakland Community College. The second thing that I want to do, as a part-time adjunct faculty member, I am well aware that the large and increasing majority of the instruction that's done in our community colleges in particular, but all throughout higher education, is increasingly done by part-time temporary employees. But as a result of our status as part-time, as temporary, we have no say in the governance of college. Even in colleges with a strong tradition and a strong institutional support for collegial decision-making, that is, the faculty have organized groups who participate in the decision-making for those bodies, the part-time faculty who actually do the large majority of the teaching have no say whatsoever in the governance of their institutions. And I want to change that. That's a priority that I want to make as a member of the OCC board. And finally, and in support of that, Oakland Community College is one of the relatively few, maybe not so few, one of the institutions where adjunct faculty are not organized. They have no employment representation. Adjunct faculty at Wayne State University have a labor union. Adjunct faculty at other institutions of higher education have labor unions who advocate on behalf of their members. OCC has no union to protect the interests and the rights of adjunct faculty. And so I would make it a priority to try to make sure that OCC adjuncts get organized and that an OCC adjunct organization has at least some degree of administration support. Because without adjuncts who can practice and who feel comfortable and whose working conditions are protected, then the education of young people and increasingly returning to education, people returning to education from careers, then their education will suffer. So we need to support our faculty as much as we possibly can, and I intend to make that as a commitment as a member of the OCC board, and so I respectfully seek your endorsement. Thank you very much.
Paul.
Sorry. Good afternoon, I'm Dana Bala. I've been a resident of Michigan my whole life, and I'm running for the Genesee County Board of Commissioners, 4th District. I want to say I joined the party in June, although philosophically I belong to you for a long time. I'm really impressed with the level of talent I see here today, and I'm here, really impressed. So my main issues would be animal rights. I'm very involved with that, whether it be human companions, wildlife, farm animals. That is my main concern. It's been a big issue in Genesee County, fighting with Genesee County Animal Control. Another one would be urban sprawl. I heard that referred to today. I'm really disgusted with the destruction of pristine areas and taking land when we have plenty of eyesores that need to be taken care of. And my third thing would be, of course, legalization of marijuana. I do believe in that. And so, having said that, I will say too, I have already been responsible for getting 4 people to join the party, and I'm going to work on more. So, thank you so much. Go ahead,